right, guys, we're back with the Contractor Compass. This is episode 18. We've been gone for a week or so. Tom's been gone for a year, something like that. Today is we got me and Tom are together, and we're just gonna be talking about how knowing what you need to grow your home service business and at what time. Tom's been a part of a lot of companies as they've grown, and I get to see that a lot. And then obviously growing my own company as well in kind of in the home service space, right? A little bit different, but you go through the same growing pains. This is just going to be more of a free talk. It's a good topic to talk about, right? Because we talk about a lot of stuff on this podcast about growing your business and staying profitable. But as a business owner, when you're going through these different stages, how do you know what levers to pull and when to pull them? So is it hiring employees? Is it leveraging into more marketing? Is it, focusing on customer retention and customer satisfaction? Is it, different things like that? So, Tom, I think a good way to start this out is just me and you chatting, is walk through like the different evolutions or like just things that you've seen, the different companies that you've been a part of and played roles in and had of your own. How do you know, like, what are the stages that you usually go from the ground up? Let's just talk about somebody starting it brand new or being a part of it on the entry level, ground level, from there to, growing, to be a rather large business. What do those stages usually look like? How does that come into play with marketing and employees and the original team and just process and things like that? What do you usually go through?
Well, one of the things, and let's talk about Air Around the Clock, 35-year-old family-owned company, and there's a sign on the wall where they had 3 trucks. Now they got 140 of them. And I was asking the general manager, Mike Lang, who had a lot to do with that. And he's like, sometimes you when you start a new company, you're all excited. You're going to start the company and, okay, I got a van now, and now I've got my tools and I got some Freon, and and you sometimes blow in the wind of like almost let things happen to you. And, my suggestion is you have a good marketing plan, and much of the things that we talked about in the past with you and Jason, as far as, kind of pick a niche, pick an area of town that you're going to focus on instead of being all over the place. Pick services that you can do efficiently. In other words, you may want to do insulation at some point, or you may want to do duct cleaning or whatever. But okay, what's gonna get you out of the gate the best, the quickest, the fastest, the most efficient? And so, obviously, as
what are the different stages that you've seen with Air on the Clock through your time being with them? What different stages have you been a part of? Have you seen them make, a lot of hires? Have you seen them turn a lot of marketing dollars to ad spend and things of that? Have you seen them go through like growing phases like that where they push really hard and they knew what lever to pull, or maybe they pulled the wrong lever?
Well, obviously employees are a huge deal, and then training those employees and being able to, you have your sales techs and your service techs, and then your, maintenance guys with that size of a company with that many trucks on the road. But, as a small guy, again, my biggest thing is that focus on what you do best and get really good at that.
Yeah.
And provide great service, and then build off of the service that you're giving, as opposed to trying to be everything to everybody.
Correct.
And do all these things that may take you off course. But in other words, some of the things that Air Around the Clock's done, and we've spoken about it in the past, is that Mike Lang actually there was one builder down there, or one HVAC company that did primarily new residential startups, right? And then so they got really involved in some big communities they built out, and then they decided to leave the space. Mike Lang bought that phone number, so they all had stickers all over them, XYZ HVAC company. He buys the telephone number. Next thing the phone starts ringing for, hey, my system's not working, and so that was a huge thing for them. But marketing standpoint, as you're in the marketing business, you can spend a ton of money and flood big areas, or you can find the area that you really want to farm and really dial in on that and be really strong in that one community or section of town or whatever like that. So, and of course I have to say that financing is a huge part of any new home improvement space, because people buy payments. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, Colton. But
surprised you don't have a background yet that just says that. So that's a good point. I think like if we we break it down, like just from my experience and the things that I've gone through, and we're not, super big, right? I mean, I have 10 full-time people and including myself, and then for part-time, right around 14 people total. So not big by any means, but I think that you go through stages, and I think this is relative to the obviously, if you're listening to this podcast or watching it, I own a marketing company, so we're completely remote, right? But we only work in the home service space. But I think you go through similar growing pains. So like when you're first starting a company, if you're literally just getting into business, right? You haven't owned businesses in the past. You don't have a ton of capital. You don't have a team that you're buying out an existing company. It's just you. At some point in time, it's going to be just you. And I think you go through different stages where, like, okay, it's just you. You're doing this service. And it's hard to know what to do next if you haven't done it. So because you start as just you doing what you're doing. And then it becomes like, okay, I need to find somebody that can do what I can do so that I can do this next thing, because now we're getting bigger, right? So it's like, okay, if I started out and I'll relate it to what we did. So I was good at Facebook ads, and that's what I did. So then it got to a point where now it's like, okay, now I'm dealing with a lot of clients, or a decent amount of clients where I'm having to communicate. And this would be the same exact thing as if you have, you were a technician, you were the technician, and then now you're not the technician anymore, and you have to find somebody to replace it. But for me, I'm the media buyer, and then I'm like, okay, I have to find a media buyer to come in and replace myself. Well, now I'm kind of an account manager because I'm dealing with all these, I can't do all the media buying and speak to all the clients all at the same time. Now it's like, okay, now I need an account manager. But at the same time, your mind's spinning. You're spinning in the back of your mind as a business owner, doing all these like inside jobs. We're like, okay, I just need to keep pressing sales, and we need to figure out how to market. So I think it becomes hard to pull all those levers at the same time of when do I hire? Who do I, as you start to hire, you realize how hard hiring is. When I first started hiring, I hired everybody and anybody because I wanted them to be the right person, because I believed them, right? And that was my mistake. Unfortunately, now I actually don't even sit in on initial interviews. My COO does, because he's much harder on people than I am. I'm able to be harder on people when they're in, but when they're interviewing, I want them to be the right person. So I usually give too much slack. But with that being said, you're trying to like play all these different roles and still push the business forward. And obviously gets easier as you get bigger. You come up with bigger problems, but it gets easier to start understanding how to allocate people. But I think in the beginning, you go through this weird phase. Even if you got 1, 2, 3 trucks on the road, you're still in this. I talk to business owners, HVAC and installation guys that are still in this position. They might have 2 rigs in spray foam, or they might have 3 trucks on the HVAC side. But like, yeah, I'm still doing all the marketing. Like I'm trying to figure it all out. I'm also running the crews. I have one manager that kind of helps me, and then I got all these, the 5 laborers or 4 laborers or whatever. And it's hard to be all those things when you're trying to break into that next stage of business, because I mean it's a total different level. The guy sitting in his office who's who's managing the managers, to the guy who's has one manager / helper who helps him run to the team, and he's still doing all the marketing and all the sales and all of that stuff, right? So I think it's becomes difficult to know what levers to pull.
Well, and what I've seen is obviously I deal with a whole bunch of different contractors in the business that I provide, and and working with them in the finance space. But I'm often finding on the smaller guys, the smaller businesses, where the owner of the company is the lead technician, as you said. He's calling me from the fields like, okay, I'm at Jane Doe's house and she needs 10 grand. It's like, okay. And it's like, a lot of smaller HVAC, I tell them that they're the technician with the checkbook is just what defines the owner versus the other techs. Correct. He just happens to have the company checkbook. And, that's so difficult to do, to scale your business. And, you've got guys that's been in it 15 years, and you ask them what their top line revenue is, and they say 600,000.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, obviously they don't have the right marketing guy like yourself.
Yeah, they've got yes. You hit the nail on the freaking head. We see so many, and that's kind of what I wanted to pinpoint. Like, this will go for bigger guys too, right? If you're listening to this and you're doing $5 million a year, right? You have certain levels that you need to pull too. Like, you're at a different stage where you can now have the capital to leverage people, and you're in a totally different ball game. But if you're at that stage, that the stage you're in now is easier than the stage you were in before. And that beginning stage when it's all you, knowing what levers to pull, where to allocate your money because you don't have a lot, right? I think it comes back to finding, like you said, finding what you're doing really well and just get and hone in on that and make as much money as possible ethically, so that you can then use that money to leverage individuals. And then because I think that comes first, right? Before, especially in a home service business, like you can do a lot of business word of mouth and doing like little, I don't want to say tricky things, but like when you go to a home, you knock on the side doors and you give them a card and hey, let me know if I need to move my truck. Here's my number. Right? You can get a hell of a lot of business by being a damn good guy in the home service industry. And that'll be enough to get you enough capital to where you can start to leverage people. And then when you can start to leverage people, then you can start to look at more of like the marketing side. So in terms of like talking about the levers, because let's discuss, we didn't really even touch on that. Let's talk about the levers. And you might know that's something I don't even know about, Tom, because I'm not there yet. But I think the two biggest levers in growing the company from what I've experienced so far are without a doubt employees and marketing side. Right, because if you crush the marketing side, but you don't have the infrastructure, or you don't have the not even the infrastructure, but you may have the employees in the seats, but they're not good enough people, you're going to lose out on the back end anyways, right? So I think those are the two biggest levers. Obviously, systems of process and all that comes into play, and you can break it down to a more micro level. But knowing when now I need to hire. And now I need to, but I don't want to hire and then lay everybody off. Okay, that's because you're missing that marketing side, Mr. HVAC guy. Right? I hire a whole shitload of people, but then I have to lay them all off. And obviously, we're speaking specifically to HVAC, so it's seasonal guys. So if you're listening, but I think knowing how to pull those levers, and you learn that as you go, and you could very well know the guys who don't learn how to do it because they've been in it for 15 years, like Tom said, and they're at $600,000. Is what they do annually, and it's like you're in the same industry, in the same market as a company I just talked to that's doing 35 million in a year, so I think it's interesting to know to recognize the levers that there are, understand them, and understand when to pull them. Like for me, it's just, and guys, and it's easier for me to relate it back to my business, right? Because obviously that's what I'm in, but like it's my side. I want to have the infrastructure on the team. I'm always hiring, always. Like I'm always taking interviews. I have 4 tomorrow, right? I really don't need anyone right now. But if I find that winning person, you bet your ass I'm bringing him on, right? I'll find a place for him, because then I'll push the sales side, because I obviously understand the marketing side. So then I can push the sales side more, and I already know I have the infrastructure on the back end to offer a good service and good client communication and all that. So I understand how my levers work. Now I definitely have a lot to learn, right? But I think that once you understand the time and like, okay, now is when I need to hire, because I see myself making a big sales push and figuring out that ebb and flow of as you're growing. I think that's important. I mean, what are your thoughts there?
I agree. And, having, there's different business coaches out there. I mean, Jason does some of that as well, right? So yeah. Consulting of like, having somebody get you out of, the owner started the chuck in the truck because he likes being in the HVAC business. He likes, working on stuff, But in other words, having a coach to say, hey, look, as everything you just said, it's like, now it's time to scale. Let's get you some marketing. Let's get you some more people, and you become more of a supervisory role and in a guidance, as opposed to just actually the guy turning the wrenches and replacing the units and things like that. So having a plan to grow, and that's hard for me. I still get involved with things that I shouldn't be involved with, but I want to take care of the customer. You do everything you can to take care of the customer, but at some point it's like I need to delegate that. So and that's just with my business, I need to delegate more. So
it's hard to do. It's hard to do.
But it's we live and learn, as they say. But driving a service business, especially like an HVAC that potentially can be seasonal, depending on what location you're in. It's you got to get the hay out of the field when the hay's laying in the field.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think that in any home service business, right? We're talking to HVAC specifically, guys, because that's pretty common to us. But garage doors,
generators, water filtration systems.
I was going to say water filtration or sprinkler systems, whatever you do, right? There's going to be an ebb and flow to it that you're going to understand. I think where people struggle a lot, even if they want to make a press, to scale, because there's so many things to juggle as an owner, profit margins and marketing and making sure that you're fine on the back end. And there's a lot to look at, but I think where a lot of guys struggle is, and that's why they reach out to me, right? Is like, it's like, okay. And even what we do isn't perfect, right? It's really difficult, guys. Marketing is marketing when you're spending paid ads, right? And you're not just getting and you need to have more than one avenue, right? And most guys do. So you don't just rely on one avenue for marketing. So like the companies that I work with, right? They've always got other stuff going on too, right? We might do LSA and PPC and Facebook ads for them, right? But they've got, billboards and they've got different promotions and they've got deals with Duke Energy and they've got, blah, 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 whatever else. But I think where people struggle is they don't understand. They hire all these people and then they can't keep the sales side up because they haven't had a proven process on the back end that they can, turn the revenue to keep the guys on. Perfect example. I was just talking. We were supposed to have a Zoom call with a potential partner here. The owner is an older guy. Right now, he's getting hit with a bunch of Facebook ads from marketers just like us. But a big fad right now in the industry is don't pay until you close the deal. Right? That is, for anyone listening to this podcast, that's absolute bullshit. I promise you, it's not really how it works. Get on a sales call with those companies, and you can feel free to message me and tell me what they tell you. There's always a catch with those things, guys. But this owner, he's an older guy and he doesn't understand the ad side of it, to where his sales guy is the person that we're talking to. And his sales guy straight out told us, he goes, I'm going to walk if he doesn't, commit to a process to actually get more leads that I can run. And it's an unpredictable thing. And I think that people struggle too much. They really struggle with spending volumes of money and not instantly making it back.
Cash flow.
Yeah. It's an interesting game, right? It's like we're dealing with it right now on the marketing side. Like right now, obviously I have sales guys, and our cost per call for us speaking with a contractor, we relied on paid ads heavily, right? And our cost per call for speaking with new contractors is usually about $130. Right now, I think it's like $800 to $900. That means $800 to $900 for someone to book a call with us. That's insanity, guys. Like that is awful, but I'm still spending an enough money to make 90% of people listening to this podcast cringe. If they were to hear the budget, but you pulling it is not the answer. Tweaking it, finding out what's going wrong and making adjustments, staying patient, retaining customers, selling on the back end, adjusting and pushing through these phases. Because if you let these phases, kick you down, whether it's the home service space or marketing space, if it's the slow season, if you let them crush you and then you start back at square zero again, if you didn't learn anything, right, you're in trouble because you're just going to repeat the same process over and over again.
Well, a lot of people, when things get slow, the first thing they cut is their marketing budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm trying to be nice. That's not the best idea, guys. When things get slow, that's when you want to go after. That's when you want to increase your ad spend to go after it, because as you said, they cut the ad spend off, and next thing you know, and they'll go, now I'm really fired up again. Marketing is a consistent ploy, and again, I'm preaching to the choir, talking to you about marketing, being able to.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It is, and it's tough, guys. It doesn't feel great. I promise you. When you're spending literally thousands of dollars a day, and you're not watching appointments come through, it is terrible feeling, right? But pulling that and feeling okay because now I'm saving whatever money I was spending a day, but now you don't have a chance in hell of booking new appointments. Who is that doing any good for? You're in trouble, right?
It was off to spite your face at this point. So
correct, 100%. And maybe you save some money right now, right, in the next month. But how much money did you lose by not marketing at all? Taking away budget's one thing, completely cutting it off is another, not understanding the ebb and flow and how things need to move and the levers that you need to pull. Tom, so, and we haven't really talked about this much. and I don't know how much you can share on here, but so for Capital Concierge, how did you start that company yourself? Are you the sole owner of that?
Yes.
Okay. And then do you have any team members there? Or is that just you?
I have one person that works for me.
Okay. And that's mostly for funding. Is that for funding new businesses?
I do franchise funding, startups. I do basically existing businesses. I can do up to $150,000 on a 10-year term loan that's like prime plus 4, prime
Okay.
plus 3 kind of thing. I have I have about 50 different lenders, and
Yep.
each lender has its unique situation. So, we've done commercial financing for people. We've done, the guy needs a new van or a new truck, or he wants to do a
Correct.
part buyout. Just anywhere that's business to business capital raised is what we do at Capital Concierge.
Correct. That makes sense. Okay. And then IHCS, how many guys do you have with you now? It's just a couple, isn't it?
We have six
Okay.
folks,
Okay.
seven folks now. So basically, we have our concierge plan where we contractor, needs financing. We have prime, second look, and tertiary where we can help them grow their business. And there's nothing worse. Quick little advertising on the financing side is that there's nothing worse than having a guy like you who drives sales calls into the business, and you roll the truck. You've already have the acquisition cost of whatever that costs to get that lead from you. You roll the truck out there, you're sitting at the kitchen table, and the customer says, okay, John, it's $10,000. I don't have $10,000. And then we get financing. So most important about financing is having credit scores that you can go from 850 to 300 and everything in between, because you don't, if you only have a prime and that customer doesn't qualify, you've just wasted all that money between acquisition, rolling truck, payroll, things like that. So
yes, it makes complete sense. So let's talk about IHCS then. And as you from the initial idea, the concept, right? Getting things off the ground, getting your first couple people. What did that process look like? And this again, rolling back to knowing what levers to pull, because you got 7 people now. To be honest, that's more than a lot of companies that we talk to. And obviously, with you're involved in a home service business heavily, and obviously, I mean, this is still kind of a home service, but it's the finance space, right? But with ICE, what kind of process? How'd that process look? How long did it take? How long did it take you to add the people that you have now? What does that look like?
Well, the old saying goes, cash flow is not profit and profit's not cash flow. But in other words, when it come down to it, as far as we started the business, we had, our sister companies there around the clock. So that's a very large HVAC company. And so we had certainly, we learned the process by, what we did for air around the clock. So as far as we weren't trying to we didn't need to reinvent the wheel. We were just need to take that wheel to other particular dealers. But, getting office set up, getting, technology in place. And
how did you get in contact with your first couple dealers?
I have a friend of mine that I have known for many years that did some marketing, that knew some contractors that kind of started the ball rolling, and that's kind of started the dance. And then we started meeting other rev share partners, like yourself, and that people that were in the industry that would be able to send us a warm link. And that was a big. We started calling out. I had a database of HVAC contractors and plumbing contractors, and we started out cold calling, and we're calling them and saying, "Hi, I'm Tom. I'm from IHCS Financing. We'd like to help you with your financing." It's like, "We got financing." Click.
Yeah.
It's like, "Yeah, but you didn't let me give you my whole spiel here." Yeah. So we realized that, and the first sales guy I had got very frustrated with that. He goes, "They won't even let me. I can't get past the gatekeeper."
Yeah.
So basically, we found rev share partners that could send us a warm lead that would be that had a need for that. And we call our turnaround experts, meaning if they've got a prime, we can help them with their second and third looks. But we started developing our program and being able to by having people send us contractors that is a warm handoff. And so that was huge for us. And that's what really started the the game for us.
Yeah. So initially leveraged a proven system from Air on the Clock, brought that into its own thing, leveraged a mutual friend to get a few dealers to get the ball rolling. Very quickly learned that cold calling wasn't going to be the answer, kind of looked at some marketing stuff and then decided, hey, rev share is the way to go with partners who are already dealing with people in the industry that we want to talk to that can, in good faith, pass them off when they learn about our product, et cetera, et cetera. And then from there, that's kind of gotten you where you are now, where then you had that compounded, you were able to bring more people on. Did you start with 7 people?
No.
Yeah.
We grew ourselves into that. So, basically when we first got started, it was just me.
Correct. That's how it goes.
And so, I was the chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah.
Crash needed to go out. Guess who took it out? If somebody needed to do the accounting, guess who did it? So,
yeah.
And then as we developed our revenue stream, as we, we had to perfect a little bit of our marketing ploy because, again, I just thought like, hey, you pick up the phone and you call a contractor and tell them what you can do for them, and they'll be all over you. Well, when you have the gatekeepers and, most of the time that the people, that's call center people that are answering the phone for an HVAC company, and they may not even know who the owner is.
Hi, yeah. Who can I forward you to? Yeah, he's not in right now. Can I leave a message? No, you can't leave a message.
Yeah. So again, we I won't say we struggled, but it was to me, I thought it would ramp quicker than it did, and just because I've been in sales all my life, but being able to start dialing in and making those little tweaks, and it's like, okay, well, we have a win. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but the bottom line is, if a mistake is not a mistake, or it's not a negative if you learn something from it. So I always tried to, take a course, adjust. I do a lot of offshore.
I agree completely. That goes back to my point I was just saying when we were talking about HVAC companies that like scale up their employees and then they go through the seasonal shift and they lose all their employees, but they don't take anything from it. They just do that again and again. And those are the guys you talk to that are 15 years in doing $600,000 a year. And yeah, that's tough. When you get your ass kicked, you gotta adjust. You gotta learn something from it. And we're learning stuff right now. Like we were ahead of the game in the marketing space for a long time because we were really good at video ads. Now everybody does video ads, right? And it's like, so now we have to make changes, and we're doing different things. We're implementing different stuff, and it's actually, for me, it's frustrating because it's like, God, this has worked for so long. But it's marketing. It doesn't all it changes, and home service is obviously going to be a little bit more steady. It's not as trendy, right? But there's definitely things that, that can be done to make sure that, like you said, you're making adjustments when you need to as you're continuing to grow. But that was good. So kind of recapping, I mean, we're at half an hour here. So kind of recapping, because I think we we really dove deep into the topic just of knowing what lever to pull. Like I said, I think, unless you disagree, Tom, and please feel free to speak up if you do, I think the 2 biggest levers are by far the marketing and sales side and your employee side, right? Knowing how to mesh those, knowing how this is speaking more towards the people who haven't learned how to leverage other individuals because they don't have the capital, they're not a big enough business. The guys that are the cook, the cleaner, and the bottle washer, or whatever you said, cook, the waiter, and the bottle washer. Go ahead, Tom.
One of the things that I've personally learned that has been, when it was just me, I knew everything, right? So then as you scale, then I've got spreadsheets with different lenders and the rates and the calculations and what have you. But what I have found more than anything is that it's important that you have a solid training program. So as you have that personal capital in your head, then just like when you media buying and things like that, you have to hand off that skill set to someone else, but you got to make sure that you articulate it. And so one of the things that's been for me is the training and making sure that we have a solid training plan with all of our different lenders. Same thing that relates into the business as you walk out of that lead technician position in your, one truck, organization. Put a program together of like how you want that service call to go, how you want the interact with the customers and things like that. So
correct. No, I completely agree. Awesome. Well, hopefully this was helpful to people. I mean, it's good. It's good even for me to talk through, and we're going through it a lot right now because we're really pushing the envelope, or trying to. And right now, being a marketing company, we're actually struggling on the marketing side for the last 2 weeks because Facebook is being so weird, and that's something we leverage really, really heavily. So we've adjusted, we've pivoted, we're trying new things, and that's the thing, guys. Doing it, like, you got to make adjustments. That's the only reason. I mean, Tom's been in from square one, ground up. I have done the same in multiple businesses, a lot that have failed, right? And I've learned, and you gotta do that, whether it's home service or something else. Make adjustments, know the levers to pull, and you're gonna learn. You're gonna have a blueprint by the end of it about what you can do and when to do things. And things are always going to catch you off guard, but you do not want to be the guy that's 15 years in doing $600,000 a year in a business next to a company that started a year ago and they're doing 15 million. So, awesome. All right, Tom. Well, let's jump off the live here, and then, guys, we'll see you on the next one. There'll be episode 19. We're almost at 20. Tom, did you know that at 20 episodes, we are in the top 5% of podcasts?
Really?
Yeah, nobody gets to 20, so we're gonna get there. We're gonna be up there.
Nice.